with the health. In the past, I mentioned about belly breathing, for example. Wim Hof is the example that I mentioned. And that's the belly-based breathing, which is very common in the Japanese society or in the Zen tradition. And I remember Daisetsu Suzuki was pointing that when people are interested in what happens in his physiology or way of living, when he was in Columbia University lecturing, that they wanted to check with X-ray how things are within his body. And Daisetsu was pointing that, look at my diaphragm, something of that nature. And that basically point the importance of belly breathing. And if you are curious, like I was, I checked how Zen monks and the famous one live. And many of them live very long life. I think it's due to their peaceful way of living in the mountain or eating something very basic and not too rich in the sugar or any luxury items in their food, and doing the exercise, taking care of the garden, cleaning up, making a visit to the people around and helping them, working. That's the tradition in Japan, not just sitting in the mountain, but rather also to connect with the people around, or have the rice paddies or the vegetables that they grow. And if you look at the Dogen, who established the Soto sect of Zen Buddhism, and if you visit Eiheiji or Sojiji in Tokyo, and I met those priests, and how they live in a simple way. So everything is connected somewhere, and this idea of finding the wisdom, with a calm and quiet mind, naturally fit to how we live in terms of healthy life. Not just healthy in terms of our thinking, but also the physical impact of the healthy way of our living. I mentioned about, again, the way almost like animals living. When I was young, I discovered that, why do they, and discovered those stories that they live like a very simple way without using mind. And my question at the time was, why don't they use their brain? Because it's there to use for. But the point I realized is that you have to have a good balance, like a middle way I mentioned about, so that you have a way to navigate life. I also posted the idea of having a compass or gyroscope so that you know how you are living in terms of liveliness. And if you don't detect that and be consumed by the mind, then you may be lopsided to overuse your brain. Some people call it the monkey mind, especially when the field is something you are unfamiliar with. But because of the influence of the TVs and surroundings, that if you don't have this luxury item of this and that, and have a place here and there and another place and houses there. I have had the multiple houses, and I have been interested in, accumulating wealth, but not to the degree of consuming myself for that purpose. So again, the balance, and I mentioned about the life profile to make sure that I have a balance of living sincerely and truthfully, also monitoring how I'm doing in the area of the works and the hobbies, relationship, health, finance, some of the key items, so that I have been monitoring those over the last 20 years. And as I mentioned, I want to put more emphasis to accelerate my activity toward the direction I now know more clearly what I need to do. So all the effort of putting all the videos was kind of connected to that by posting the ideas and the wisdom that I gain and also summarizing some of the things that I learned from the past, from the books and the meeting people and sutras and information from the web. I'm trying to put all this together, and by putting together and sharing what whoever the audience is, I'm the one who is benefiting to clarify what I'm doing and how all the reference point that I raised and posted on the web is enriching my whole existence, that I can synthesize those information to live better. Again, the most recent video was about my mind and habit and how to use it. It's critical. Of course, we can live from the heart and the body like animals, and it's kind of like street smart instead of the educated intelligence. We have that animal instinct, or street smart, I call it, and there's a lot to be appreciating about it, in my view. Usually in the society, that element is not praised high because you don't speak the language of the accountant and lawyers and the businessmen, management, and so forth, but they are quick to figure out which is the way to go. Maybe not all the time, but again, that's the point of using the brain, but also listening to the heart and body and find the linkage or synthesizing those ideas together to have the whole being of who we are aligned to the nature's way, but not violating the human society's direction and the formula, if you can accommodate with that. So this video is basically to announce the extension of what I have announced in terms of my orientation to emphasize certain skills to change my behavioral patterns to live better. And I hope I'll keep doing this. And for those who may be interested, please take a look at some of the things that I posted. But perhaps you can also watch me how I'm progressing, hopefully, and sharing my information the best I can. It may benefit me, and it may benefit you. If I can do that, I think I have aligned my purpose into the right direction. So that's just the announcement, but I hope I capture the essence. I want to put my thought together on that a little bit. And that is something that I already mentioned, that if we are busy in our mind, when the stomach is hurting, you may not notice it, therefore you develop the cancer or the ulcer. It can happen because the situation is lopsided. You're overworking in certain direction but not listening to the body or the heart. So when I mentioned about the Wim Hof and the belly breathing and talking about the calm and quiet mind, that is to notice when something is happening in our body, we can listen to it. So when the stomach is hurting, because your acid, stomach acid level may be high, or whatever the reason, and the stress is causing some physiological changes in your body, then you need to know that. Nobody tells you. You are the one to be the master of your own destiny. So automatically, even subconsciously, unconsciously, you want to find a way to address it. To accelerate that process, when I mentioned about the calm and quiet time, you create the space for Tai Chi or focus on breathing, or that kind of activity would help you to notice this biological information that you gain, whether it's coming from inside the body or from outside by the sight or the ear or the touch or taste, whatever the sensory information that you can capture may not be just ignored because you're busy with the mind and so forth, but you can relate to it. Doing that but by itself would help come up with the wisdom that I mentioned about. But one of the benefits of the wisdom or side benefit, if you call it, is that I believe that will help you to live long. Because if you are wasting your energy for the useless thing to think about and worry about, what's the point of living? So cut that in the instance and do this movement of the hand, the Tai Chi or Wim Hof or meditative state. I mentioned a few of those ideas, but you need to come up with your own idea that you think is workable and move in that direction. So in terms of breathing, it's related to belly breathing, not the shallow breathing with your chest. And it's a longer, deeper breathing. So even now, let's try a minute. Just breathe calmly, quietly. Forget about what I said. Just breathe. You may hear cicada like I do, or you may notice the tingling sensation in your hand, palm, or feet, or you may not. But if your mind is calm and quiet, you develop the sense much more quickly and relate to what's going on in your body. So if you can think of the case of living without the connection to the living sense of who you are, but just be occupied in your mind, reading, email, coming up with the idea what to do, how much of that is meaningful? I'm checking that more constantly, and I think you may see the benefit of, well, at least start doing it. Do it sincerely and truthfully. Thank you.